Okay, since I'm still having technical difficulties with sharing screens and stuff, I'm going to import some regular PowerPoints into our lessons, but I'm still going to do as many of these recordings that I can do. So I strongly urge you guys to make sure that you watch all these videos. Okay, so when we're identifying characteristics of a graph, I'm not going to worry too much about a maximum or minimum. We'll talk a little bit about it, but not too much. I wanted to talk more about the domain and range, and then I also wanted to talk about x-intercepts and y-intercepts. Now remember, your zeros and roots are always your x and y intercepts as well. So again, this is kind of an extension of what we've already done, but I wanted to make sure you guys understood all this and were comfortable with it so that we could keep going. So I know that domain and range is hard, so I want to kind of go over there. So what you can see here is, sorry, I need to erase that. Oops. Sorry, I'm getting used to my writing tablet again. Okay. And back to writing. Okay, what you're going to see is this is a line. Remember that all lines that are neither horizontal or vertical all have a domain of all real numbers and a range of all real numbers. Okay, all right. And the zeros are the x-intercepts. So right here, this is a zero right here at -1, 0. Okay. And your y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, which is 0, 1. So this kind of covers a lot of things. So I just wanted to kind of make sure you guys were okay with this. Sorry. All right. Again, another non-vertical, non-horizontal line. So the domain is, again, all real numbers, which is also, remember how I said it's -infinity to +infinity with these little parentheses. And your range is also all real numbers as well. Okay? -infinity to +infinity. All right? Your zeros or your roots is the x-intercept. So this isn't exactly, it's right here. It's not quite at -3, but let's just say for the sake of it, just to make life easier on us. Normally on your SOL, you guys would actually mark the point. This is your x-intercept right here. So this is your x-intercept. Remember, that's the same thing as a 0 and a root, and we also use the word solution for it. I don't know why we have 4 words for one thing, which can be very frustrating to you guys, and I understand that. So, and then our y-intercept right here is -2. So remember, you have to write that as a point. The x value is 0, and the y value is -2. Okay, sorry about my horrible handwriting. So, okay, and there's no max or min with lines, okay? This one will have a minimum point. And remember, this kind of goes along with the idea of your domain and range. Remember when I talked about how they point upwards? So this point is -2, -2, right? All right. Now the domain, remember if it's facing up or down, just like from my last lesson, is all real numbers. So again, all real numbers, or -infinity to +infinity. And your range, remember, it starts at this point and then it keeps going up. So it's greater than or equal to that point, right? So when we do that, my range, this value, the y value right here is -2. So it's going to be y is greater than or equal to -2. All right. So if I was writing that in function notation or in interval notation, I would have a bracket because it's greater than or equal to the value of -2, and it goes to positive infinity. Okay. All right. Now, the zeros, there's 2 zeros right here. There's -3, 0 and -1, 0. And there's one y-intercept. Let's just say that that's 0, 6 right here. That's 0, 6, okay? And as I said, our minimum is -2, -2, because that is our lowest point. Now here, this one over here has a maximum value, right? So let's take a look at that one. That one has a value of -1. The x value is, I'm sorry, here. The x value is -1 and the y value is 1. So that's going to be a maximum, so I'll write that down here. Sorry, -1, 1. And because it's going up or down, it's still parabola. The domain is still all real numbers. And your range is decreasing. So it's going to start at this maximum value of 1, and it's going to go down forever and ever. Okay? And our zeros are exactly where it crosses the y-axis, or x-axis, I apologize. So that's going to be -2, 0, and 0, 0. And our y-intercept is also the same place where it crosses the y-axis, so it's also 0, 0. Now remember, y-intercepts are where x-intercepts, y is equal to 0, right? If you notice, y is equal to 0 at every single one of those points. At the y-intercept, at the x-intercepts, y is equal to 0. At the y-intercept, x is equal to 0. Okay, now these are some other interesting graphs here. What you're going to notice is that it goes on in both directions forever and ever. So it has a domain of all real numbers for both of these, actually. All right. Now my range, it does not hit. It hits. It's always y is greater than or equal to 0. So it's not going to go any further than 0. It's like an asymptote. So my range is y is greater than or equal to 0. Same with here. Y is greater than or equal to 0, because it kind of goes down there and doesn't go any further. Now the zeros, it looks like it hits the x-axis right here at 7, so let's just assume it does. So it hits the x-axis at 7, 0, and the y-intercept is right here. It's at 0, 2. Okay. Now, for this one, again, it looks like this one hits at -7, 0, right? The reason why I said that is because I see a little dot right here, okay? And then it hits the y-axis somewhere between 0 and 1, closer to 0, but not equal to it, okay? And let's just skip the min-max. Now here is a great one. This is another parabola. Remember, this is actually going left to right. This is not a function. Let's pretend that's -5, 0, right? All right. So my domain goes in this direction, right? This is my horizontal behavior, right? So it's all values greater than or equal to that -5, all right, because it's going in this direction. My range is all real numbers, okay? My root, which is where it hits the x-axis, is again -5, 0, and there's now going to be 2 y-intercepts. I'm just going to mark them because they're not exact numbers here. All right, so those are your y-intercepts. Now, this guy kind of looks like the cubic function. It's a little weird though. I'm going to assume there's arrows at either end here. Okay. It's going to go in both directions, up and down and left and right. So its domain and range are both all real numbers. Now its x-intercept, I'm going to say is right here, which is, it looks like -2, 0. And my y-intercept, it looks like it's at 0, 5. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out a little bit. This is just kind of getting you used to applying those rules. And if you kind of look at the notes that I gave you on this, this is like a basic, it's an application of the information that I gave you. Okay, next one. This looks very similar to a quadratic function, so it's or an x squared function. So that's exactly what I want you to do is think about it that way. So this domain is just like any other parabola that points upwards. Its domain is all real numbers, right? And oopsies. Oh, sorry guys. Oopsie. All right, so let's try this again. Sorry. Domain, again, is all real numbers. And your range, now let's look at what the lowest value is. It appears it's 0, -6. And that's the lowest value of this function. So we're going to go up. So y is greater than or equal to -6 because it includes that value. There's 2 x-intercepts or roots. So one is at -7, 0, and another is at 4, 0. Sorry about my horrible handwriting. And the y-intercept is right here. I'm going to say that 0, -4. Hopefully that gives you guys some idea of what we're doing here. Let's look at this next one. This is a vertical line. Remember, your domain is just your x value. So this x value is always the same for every point on this line. So the domain is x is equal to 2. And your range is going to be all real numbers. There's one x-intercept, and that's at 2, 0. And there's no y-intercepts. All right? So hopefully that's helping you a little bit. Okay, again, and this is not a function. Remember, this is not a function. Right here is not a function. So this one right here is also not a function, but this is another parabola. Let's take a look at this. This has a minimum point. Okay, and it's pointing up or down. So this minimum point is at the point 4, 0. Do you see how it never crosses the x-axis? So there's no zeros or roots. So let's look at our domain. Our domain, it goes left and right forever and ever. So it's all real numbers. And our range is y is greater than or equal to 4. Our zeros, there are none. But there is a y-intercept at 0, 5, right? So this y-intercept is 0, 5. Okay. Now this guy is a little bit harder to do. So let's think about this. We have 4 distinct points on this circle. Okay? This is our farthest point up, our farthest point left, our farthest point right, blah, blah, blah. So this is at the point 2, -3, right? This is the minimum bottom point right here. And this is the top point, so that appears to be 2, 3. Okay. Then this one has a maximum x value at 5, 0. And then we have another one at -1, 0. Okay. So our domain goes from this x value to this x value. All right. So the way I would say it is it's greater than or equal to -1. I'm sorry. Oops. Erase that again. So we have x values, and we set up an inequality here. X value is less, it's greater than or equal to -1, and it maxes out at 5. If we were to do interval notation, it would be like this. Now, our y value, let's look at our lowest y value. Our lowest y value is -3. And what's our highest y value? Our highest y value is +3. So again, look at your lowest x value, look at your highest x value. Those give you the points that you need for your domain and range. Okay, this is it's a tricky one for sure. Okay, there's the zeros, the roots are -1, 0, and 5, 0. Remember, that's y is equal to 0 at each one of those points. And then it appears that one of them is, one of the y-intercepts is at 0, -2. These are rough. And then this one is 0, 2. Okay? Remember, this is not a function. But we can still talk about its domain and range. All right? All right. I think. Okay, couple more. All right. Oh, yay, good. We have a couple more, quite a few more. I want to keep going through these. So, yes. So, another parabola. Go ahead and pause the video and tell me what you think it is. It's very much like all the other ones that we've done. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and start it. Our domain is all real numbers because it's pointing up or down. Our range, we have a minimum y value at 4. So y is going to be greater than or equal to 4. As you can see, it never touches the x-axis, so there are no roots or zeros. And there's one y-intercept at 0, 5. Okay? And if you didn't notice, this minimum point is 1/4. That's the lowest point we have here. Okay, this one's a little bit harder to read because of the, let's just go ahead. It looks like this is in intervals of 5. So again, let's take a look at this point right here. I'm going to say this point is +15, 5, it looks like. Okay, just bear with me. So again, our domain, remember this is like this, but only opposite. So our domain is now limited. It's going in this direction. So remember, that's a less than or equal to. So our x values are less than or equal to whatever this x value is, which is 15. Okay? Our range is going to be all real numbers because it's going to keep going up or down forever and ever. Just so you guys can see, this is your root or 0. So I'm going to say that's 13, the point 13, 0. And then you have your y-intercepts here and here. Okay, these are not exact values, so I'm not going to worry about them too much. But I want you to understand that your y-intercepts are where you cross the y-axis, and your x-intercepts are where you cross the x-axis. Let's try a couple more. Ooh, this is an absolute value, and this is one that has a definite beginning and a definite end. Okay, so here's some important points. We need this starting point, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is -4, -2. We need this ending point right here, which is -1, 1. But we also need this top point right here because that's the highest the function goes, right? So this is -2 and +2. So domain, I want you to look at your x values. Remember, your x values are always the first values you see. What is our lowest x value? Our lowest x value is -4. Rats, guys, sorry. Our lowest x value is -4. So that is the interval at which our values go. What is our highest x value? Our highest x value is right here. It's -1. So this is the interval for the x values. And if I was to write this in interval notation, it would look like that because it includes those points. If it didn't include those points, those would be the curved brackets. Okay? Now, once again, let's look at your range. Remember, we're looking at domain is your x values, range is your y values. So what's my lowest y value? I have -2, I have 1, and I have 2. Obviously, it's -2. And my highest y value is not this 1, it's a +2. So my range goes from -2 to 2. All right. There are no, sorry, that's a bracket. There are no y-intercepts because it doesn't hit this this y-axis. There is an x-intercept right here. All right, I'm not going to worry too much about defining that. All right, here's your maximum, here's your minimum. Okay, let's look at an absolute value function. This is the point 0, -3. This is just like our parabolas. Remember, if it's going left, if it's going up or down, our domain is always all real numbers. And our range is y is greater than or equal to, because it's pointing up, right, to this lowest y value, which is -3. There's zeros here and here. So our zeros are -3, 0, and 3, 0, right? And our y-intercept is very easily 0, -3, and it's the same thing as our minimum. Okay. All right. So hopefully this is giving you some. I want to pay attention to the stuff that really is important here. Okay. So remember when I told you about like the sine function and stuff? Now I'm going to put arrows at the either end of this guy right here and this guy right here too, so that you guys can understand that that keeps going on forever and ever. Now this function clearly has a maximum value at 2 and a minimum value at 2, but it keeps going left and right forever and ever. So my domain is all real numbers, and my range, again, lowest value is -2. I'm sorry. Ugh. Let me just erase it. Again, this is all real numbers. Our lowest value is at -2, and our highest value is at +2. Oh, mercy. Sorry, guys. So if it makes more sense for you guys to write this as an inequality, go ahead and do that. You'll be able to figure it out. Now, these are all your zeros. Okay, so there's lots of zeros here. Every time it crosses the x-axis, that's a 0. All right, and then your y-intercepts is right here. There's one y-intercept. Okay. This is an example of a cubic function as well. So remember, if you go back to the notes I gave you, your domain and range is all real numbers. Okay. Your x-intercept, it looks like, is -1, 0, because it's right here. And then your y-intercept appears to be 0, 1. There's no max or min if it keeps going on and on forever and ever. Okay. And then I'm going to put arrows on this one too. Okay. So this one, again, even though it appears to kind of like stop, your domain and range, it keeps going to the left and right and up or down forever and ever. So that's in all real numbers. Okay. Your 0 roots would be -2, 0. And it looks like your y-intercept is 0, 1. For this one, again, because the domain is going left and right forever and ever, it's all real numbers. But your range, you have a restricted domain, keeps going left and right as well. So we're just going to keep going for that. All right. Some of these are kind of silly at the end. Okay. So that kind of gives you an idea of what I'm talking about when you're talking about domain and range of continuous graphs. It's a very abstract concept. Please be patient with yourself and understand that you need to make sure that you practice this and look at the notes that I gave you and do this all together with me. So I hope this helps. Let me know if there's anything else I can do. Talk to you later.